All right, everybody. The purpose of this video is to go over a couple of skills that you learned in Algebra 2 and Pre-Cal that we're going to need in the next section of AP Calculus. And those two skills are long division and completing the square. So I wanted to make sure I went over these skills to make sure your foundation in algebra is super strong before we start trying to apply the calculus to them. So remember, in long division, we're dividing one polynomial into another, and we're doing that using a four-step algorithm: divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So you start by dividing first term by first term, so x cubed divided by x, which would be x squared. Then you multiply that by everything that's in the divisor. So x squared times x plus 3 will be x cubed plus 3x squared. Divide, multiply, subtract. This first thing here should always go away. And 2x squared minus 3x squared is negative x squared. And then bring down. And then you repeat the process. Divide first terms, so negative x squared divided by x. Multiply by the entire divisor. Subtract. Bring down. Again, divide 5x by x. Multiply. Subtract. Now, when you go to bring something down here, you don't have anything left, so the number that's here at the bottom is your remainder. And so my answer would be this, but that remainder, we would write that at the end as negative 16 over x plus 3. So we basically have written this fraction, that was this, as a polynomial plus a much simpler fraction. That's going to be a skill that'll be really useful for us. So now I'd like you to pause the video and do the problem below with long division to make sure you got it down. And this is the answer you should get. All right, now for completing the square. The completing the square that we're going to be doing is not completing the square to solve, but completing the square to turn something into a perfect square trinomial. So the way we're going to do this might be a little different than the way you learned it before, but the concept is the same. So we're going to look at the first two terms of a quadratic that I've got here. And we're going to seek to turn that into a perfect square trinomial by adding a blank. Now we still have that plus 5 on the end, right? Now, the pattern in completing the square is to take half of your b coefficient and square it. Now, we just added 2 squared to this thing, and this is an expression. We want to keep this expression balanced. So in order to keep this expression balanced, since we added 2 squared, we're going to subtract 2 squared to keep the whole thing balanced. And now we're going to take this and factor it, and it'll always factor the same way. X plus your b, x plus whatever half your b was. And then these numbers at the end, we're just going to combine those. So that's 5 minus 4. Now, having something in this form rather than this form will actually be super useful for us when we start doing integrals with things like this. So now I'd like you to pause the video and try the problem at the bottom. And there you go. Those are the two skills that we're going to be using in Unit 6.10, but we're going to layer and taking antiderivatives on top of those skills.